creation of the, and it's not a department anymore, the company of commerce.
Yeah.
I want the nomenclature right. But I think that needs to be brought to Main Street, and not just Main Street, the stores, but to all business development. Again, back to the home businesses, and there's a lot of them in the rural areas. And they need to, it's not just big mining companies that we need to attract, because we know that jobs are created by very small businesses,
Yes.
the majority. And we also know that large national, international companies do take a lot of money out of the state. And that's not derogatory, it's just that the real nexus of businesses are the small businesses that we have so many of in this county and in this region. And the commerce, I don't know how to pound on their door. I don't know the mechanism to get there. And these small communities need access. So that comment about the commerce company.
Yeah, and small businesses are also more likely to stay here. It just seems like these big companies come in, and it seems like this race to the bottom. If taxes go down in Illinois, they're going to be threatening to move to Illinois. But I feel like small businesses are more tied to their communities and more committed to staying and growing there. Yeah.
To parallel what Bob is saying about the need for economic development, I think there's an important parallel to that, which is the question of community planning. And in this area, for example, where we have a quality of life that we value enormously, and we want to see growth occur in a way that is win-win for the community and not just for certain special interests.
Right.
And I think it's going to be also very important to coordinate. We have a lot of different planning sectors. We have all of our communities have planning groups, but we don't have overarching planning coordination. And I think that's really important, because we're not just talking about economic growth, we're talking about the social growth and how communities grow, preserving that quality of life. And I think this is something that really needs to be encouraged as we move forward. If you bring in, for example, I think the rail project in Watertown, for example, I think one of the reasons that it failed so dramatically was that there was very little communication with the communities, between the communities and the business interests. There is sometimes you really need to bring planning into the picture and bring communities in and give them an active voice in how their communities grow.
Okay. So careful planning, preserve quality of life. Great, thank you.
Lori?
Yes.
And I just think one should emphasize that this economy is driven by small business. 70% of this economy is driven by small business. So, and just focusing on those big corporate giveaways, like what was going on with Geo Goldberg up in mining, those and the AT&Ts and those, they don't drive the economy. It's small businesses like myself and others that do it. So that's the focus, and I think they're left in the dust a lot.
Small business. Yes.
I'm Don Ullman from Deerfield, and I think I'll try and speak for the public employees and other unions and non-union people that are working. And I want to emphasize how important that when you get back in there, they're trying to pass a bill right now. Or they're in the, Ritzer is his name? Ritzer and another guy are
Mark Pocan.
wrote up a bill to replace our union rights. I hope and pray that we'll be able to get them back, especially with you in office. I've I'm so happy that she joined us and flocked to get this. I really, before I die, I hope to see this.
So restoring human rights.
Along those lines, they are trying to do something with the Wisconsin retirement system.
Okay, the retirement system, have you all heard about this?
And
The
Yeah.
WRS.
I've requested some ridiculous study.
Can't hear you back here.
We're talking about the Wisconsin retirement system,
And the study that's been requested.
which is probably the
Now,
precursor
which
to
means
worry
it's
about.
the precursor of getting their hands on retirement.
Yeah.
Now that he's recalled that, but we need to worry about that. To contact, our state senator, and I somehow don't think that he would be extremely receptive to.
So she's saying that she's been urged to contact her state senator, but she doesn't think that he would be receptive. Well, go ahead. I hear that he's actually writing back to people now. Somebody said they wrote him a letter the other day, and they got, I think, 2 emails and a paper letter back on fancy stationery. So all of a sudden, he's listening. So yeah, that is something that I want to research and get smart about, because my parents are both retired school teachers in Missouri, actually, and they are enjoying a comfortable retirement. They were frugal their entire lives, and because the retirement system was not privatized, was not rated, they're actually able to enjoy their retirement, and I think that's how it should be.
And this is one of the best in the country.
Yeah, in fact, yeah, I was going to say,
Best managed,
yeah,
yeah.
at least till now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're already there, but I just want to emphasize how I appreciate that you're a friend of education. We're facing, in Cambridge, we're facing a $450,000 deficit next year. And one of the ways that we're looking at $450,000. One of the ways we're looking at meeting that is functioning without a middle school principal. That seems like a basic need for our kids to have a principal, especially in the middle school.
Yeah.
But we're having to make really hard decisions in this district. And certainly there's, I'm lucky enough to be volunteering on the task force for finances and facilities, and we're looking at a lot of different options, one of which is a referendum. But it's just, it's heartbreaking. I spend every day in the public schools, and it's heartbreaking to watch the dismantling of public education in the state of Wisconsin. We have long been a leader in education, and it's breaking my heart. I'm watching the morale of really good teachers go down by the day as they're asked to deal with higher class sizes, smaller budgets, and a lot less support from our government and from the general, they're getting beaten up in the press on a regular basis, as are many of other, people who had collective bargaining as a part of their employment. So I'm glad your parents were school teachers, and, I would look to you to be a friend of education.
Yeah, certainly.
And I just want to follow up on that. One of the reasons my wife and I moved, I grew up in Wisconsin until I was 14. But what one of the reasons we moved from St. Louis to the Madison area is because of the schools.
Yeah.
We moved to Wisconsin knowing it was a high tax state. But you thank you. You get what you pay for. I remind myself that every December 30th. Which we probably all do every December 30th. We get what you pay for, and you talking about attracting business. Everyone, the Republican Party gets so focused on taxes. Taxes, yes, it's one part of it. Quality of life is another part. Education and the educational ability of the workforce is a huge component. It's actually, when you look at it, it's actually a larger component than taxes.
And also the fact that I think employers, of course employers want to attract the best employees, so they look for a well-educated workforce, but they also think about, where would my employees like to live? You're more likely to attract good employees if you're in an area with a lot of natural amenities, bike trails, if you're in a community that has a swimming pool and a rec center, and good schools are a huge part of that.
Seattle and Portland are great examples of.
Yeah.
They're not cheap places to live.
And the weather's not that good.
No.
And yet,
And busy kids stay up.
And Lori, if I could follow up on that, and I think it piggybacks on Bob Salof's comment about economic development. is part of our issue here in Cambridge, and the reason we have that level of a deficit is one of our primary issues is that we struggle with declining enrollment. And we're a small community, and we've lost over 100 students over the last 10 years. That's a huge, so consequently it affects our tax levy, it affects the amount of state, support that we get financially. So we're one of those districts that's really hurting, and, with, thoughtful economic development here, we would be able to hopefully attract more families and affordable housing. I mean, those are kind of the two pieces that we need in Cambridge to get more younger families, to get our numbers up and our state aid up, and therefore, then our deficit wouldn't be there. So that's what we're facing here.
Affordable housing and.
I will say, can I say something?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, you're just described.
No, I'm describing. I didn't attend, but my husband attended the Cambridge Economic Development meeting. Did anyone attend that? It was maybe a month ago. Tristan did. And it seems like, from what Dan was saying to me, that they're focusing a lot on bringing seniors into the area, which is all fine and good, but it really doesn't help with our school system. And it's really important. Nobody says, I want to live in a place with bad schools. Everyone wants good schools, and we really do need to have our business development really talk about younger families coming in here.
So what do you think would attract younger families? Affordable housing?
Yes.
Well, I think a music auditorium in our high school, but that's a whole nother meeting.
Does anybody else have, before we move on, does anybody have any comments about that topic of how can we attract younger families?
I'm a little upset, I have been upset that when I heard on the news that these here church schools, which, we used to have, if we wanted to send our kids to a church school, we would have to pay for that. And now they got the private schools that they're talking about, and they say that these schools are taking funds away from the public schools. Charter schools are taking away and this I am very upset about too. Pretty soon, why don't they, instead of closing us down, maybe they better just call us a charter school then or something, so we don't lose any funds or something. I don't know what they're going to do, but there's got to be a better answer than what's going on right now.
I think one of the main issues talking about attracting younger families, especially when I've worked at places in Madison, is transportation. There is no transportation. I mean, Madison has limited public transportation. There is no regional transportation at all. I had to buy a third car for my daughter so she could go, because she has activities in Madison. So she could go and do it. Choosing to move to Cambridge or choosing to move to Deerfield, and they're wonderful to the community, is also kind of in a way of, especially if you have young kids, meaning you're going to be driving all the time. Before we left Wisconsin, I lived on the Upper East Side of Milwaukee. I remember, in 8th grade, I'd take the bus and go downtown and hang out. There's nothing like that for these kids. Kids in Cambridge are trapped in Cambridge unless they have a car. They're trapped in Deerfield. They're trapped in they can't do anything. And then you get what happened in the forest. That was it in the forest where those teenagers did all that movement.
So you think there ought to be some sort of public transportation between here and
I
Madison?
think we need to look at, this has been talked about in everything, on the county level, but a regional transportation facility.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, thank you for that laugh. It's been,
it sounds pie in the sky, but when my husband graduated from the UW, his first job was in Adelaide, Australia. So we lived there for a couple of years, and that's a city of 1 million people. And it has this amazing train system. We live 20 minutes outside the city in the leafy suburbs up in the hills. We could look out over the ocean, and it's beautiful. And 5 minutes from our house, there's a train station. And we walk to the train. Kids, like you talk about kids, the kids could put their bikes on the train. go downtown, ride their bikes around. I mean, it's just a whole different way of life than it is here, where, you know, you're 20 minutes from Madison, a half an hour from Madison, and yet it's like another world, you know, for teenagers and young families. Because it's such a hassle to drag the kids, whereas there, you just take them in their stroller or whatever and hop on the train and you're there. Yeah.
One of the things that